You're 28 years old, standing in a municipal office in Rome, and the man across the desk is offering you a job. The terms are simple. You'll be paid a flat wage by the city, good money actually, better than your current practice. You'll be granted access to every infected house in the quarter. You'll have legal authority to quarantine, diagnose, and report. Full municipal backing, official papers. In exchange, you will spend your days inside the homes of people dying of bubonic plague. You will examine their bodies, lance their swellings, record their symptoms, and attend their autopsies. The man across the desk says all of this with the practiced calm of someone who has already made this offer to 7 other physicians this week. You know this because 6 of them said no. The other one is already dead. You say yes, not because you're especially brave, because your private practice has been empty for 2 months. Half the city has either sealed itself indoors or fled outright, and the landlord of your apartment has started leaving notes under your door with a frequency that suggests he's running out of patience and ink in roughly equal measure. The man across the desk pushes a contract toward you. You sign it. Congratulations. You are now officially Rome's newest medico della peste. The job nobody wanted. Yours to keep. Age 28, the costume. 3 days later, the city sends a courier with a wooden crate. Inside your uniform. You unwrap it piece by piece. A long robe of waxed leather, stiff, dark, completely sealed at the wrists and throat. Gloves of the same material. A wide-brimmed hat that marks you as a physician the way a flag marks a ship. Crystal lenses set into a leather mask. And the beak. The beak is roughly 18 inches of curved leather, hollow, shaped like an enormous bird's bill, with 2 small openings at the nostrils and a compartment at the tip for filling with aromatics, dried lavender, camphor, rose petals, cloves, myrrh. The theory is miasma, that the plague is carried in bad air, and that the scented beak will filter it before it reaches your lungs. The camphor specifically is supposed to purify whatever the lavender misses. You hold the beak in both hands and consider it for a moment. It looks like a nightmare crossed with a carnival. Smells at the tip of flowers and resin. The inside smells of leather and the particular industrial note of something that has been manufactured in quantity because there is suddenly an enormous market for. You put it on. The world through the crystal lenses is slightly yellowed, slightly distorted. The beak extends beyond your face by 1.5 feet, which means everything in your peripheral vision has to be approached with the slow, methodical caution of someone navigating doorways with a very long hat. You pick up the wooden cane, also included, for examining patients without touching them directly, and also, you suspect, for maintaining distance from people who might not be pleased to see you. You look at yourself in the small mirror above your washstand. Sounds like you've been given the full protection of medical science, right? Wrong. The miasma theory is wrong. The plague is not in the air. It's in the fleas on the rats in the walls of every building in this city. The beak full of camphor will do essentially nothing. The waxed leather will offer minor protection against direct contact but will not prevent the flea bites happening below the hem of your robe. You don't know this yet. Nobody knows this yet. Nobody will know this for another 200 years. You know only that you look like a creature from someone's fever dream, that the costume is remarkably hot for May, and that you have 17 house calls to make before sundown. You pick up your cane. You go to work. 2 weeks in the patience. The first house is a baker's family in the Trastevere quarter. 5 people. The door is marked with a red cross, the city's official signal that plague has been confirmed. Inside, you knock. A voice inside tells you to come in. You push the door open. The smell hits first. Plague has a particular smell, sweet and rotten, and somehow both at once, layered over the animal smell of fever sweat and the sharp note of human fear. You'll get used to it. You don't know that yet, and your first instinct through the beak's filtered air is to take a step backward. You don't. You go in. The baker is in bed. His wife is tending him, keeping her distance from the far corner of the room in the particular way of someone who is afraid to be too close and more afraid to be too far. 3 children arranged on pallets against the far wall, 2 asleep, 1 watching you with the wide-eyed assessment of a child confronted with a creature they cannot categorize. The baker has been sick for 4 days. His neck is swollen on the left side. A bubo, a swollen lymph node, the size of a large egg and the color of old bruising, hot to the touch even through your glove. He has a fever of the kind that lives behind the eyes. He's alive. He's not going to stay that way. You record his symptoms in your notebook with the wooden cane propped against the wall, and your pen moving in the precise, unhurried script of a man who has decided that clinical detachment is the only useful tool he has brought into this room. You tell the wife to keep the windows closed. You tell her to burn the bedding if he goes. You leave a preparation of theriac, the great cure-all of the age, composed of 64 ingredients including viper flesh, opium, and honey, with instructions for dosing. The theriac will do nothing useful. You don't know this yet either. You say you'll return in 2 days. You go to the next house. By the end of your first week, you have visited 41 patients. 31 will be dead within a fortnight. Of the remaining 10, 4 will recover, 3 will recover, and then relapse. 2 will survive with permanent organ damage, and 1, a boy of 9 who should by all medical logic have been among the first to go, will be completely fine. You will never figure out why. Medicine in 1656 is many things. It is not yet a science. 3 months in the treatments. You are a trained physician. You have a degree from the University of Bologna. You have read Galen and Hippocrates and Avicenna and a stack of more recent texts that make confident claims in clean Latin about the correct management of epidemic disease. None of it is working. The standard treatments available to you are as follows. Bloodletting, draining blood from the patient on the theory that disease is caused by an imbalance of the humors and that removing excess blood will restore balance. Lancing the buboes, cutting them open and draining them, which provides brief relief from pressure and introduces a reliable secondary infection. Applying poultices of dried figs, onions, and butter to the open wounds, or in some cases live pigeons split open and pressed to the swelling on the theory that the bird will draw out the poison. You have done the pigeon thing twice. The pigeons died quickly. The patients did not improve. You have prescribed tobacco smoke inhaled on the grounds that it purifies the lungs. You have prescribed theriac. You have prescribed bathing in urine. You have advised against bathing in water, as cold water is understood to open the pores and invite pestilential air directly into the body. This is also wrong. What actually works? Isolation, which slows transmission. Rest. Clean water. Food, when the patient can keep it down. And, occasionally, the immune system of a person, who is simply constitutionally less susceptible to this particular organism, doing what immune systems were designed to do without any help from you. You, the degree, the theriac, the pigeons, and the 64-ingredient miracle cure are largely decorative. You record this conclusion in your notebook under the heading Asterisk Notes, Treatment, Efficacy 3-month star. Then you close the notebook and go to the next house because there is always a next house and because the alternative is sitting in your rented room contemplating the gap between what medicine promises and what it delivers, which is a gap you cannot currently afford to contemplate and also cannot afford not to. Jackpot, right? Wrong. 6 months I in the exile. This is what people don't tell you about the costume. The costume works both ways. When you walk down a Roman street in the waxed leather robe and the crystal lenses and the 18-inch beak full of flowers, people don't think, there goes a brave physician, serving his city in its darkest hour. They think, there goes the plague, because you are where it is, because you have been inside the houses, because the thing inside the beak and behind the crystal eyes has been leaning over the bodies of the dying all week and is now walking through a market buying bread. Streets clear. Shopkeepers close shutters. A woman pulls her child behind her skirts and moves to the far side of the road. A man crossing the piazza takes a sharp left turn that has no destination other than away from you. You have become a walking quarantine notice. The Red Cross on the door, but ambulatory. Your landlord has asked you to use the back entrance. Not rudely, apologetically even, but firmly. You use the back entrance. Your sister lives 3 streets away. You have not embraced her in 4 months. You communicate by note, slid under her door, because the note can be aired out before she picks it up. She writes back that she is well. Her handwriting is tight and careful, the handwriting of someone keeping themselves together with deliberate effort. The other plague doctors drink together after the houses close. Not from pleasure, from necessity. You are the only people in Rome who will sit with each other in public, without moving, at a tavern near the Tiber whose proprietor is either braver than average or has decided that plague doctor's money spends the same as anyone else's. 5 of you eat together most evenings. 2 physicians contracted to the northern quarter, 1 surgeon who used to do amputations and has now been repurposed for lancing and cauterization, 1 apothecary delivering preparations to the quarantined houses. And you don't talk about the patients. Not directly. You talk about other things. Old cases, old teachers, the particular texture of the city in summer versus winter, anything that keeps the day at arm's length for an hour. The apothecary tells bad jokes. The surgeon laughs at them with the particular laughter of someone who needs the release more than he needs the humor to be good. Some nights this is enough. Other nights it isn't. 1 year in the accounting. A year in, and the plague has taken approximately a third of Rome. Not a metaphor, not an approximation. The third, somewhere between 90 and 100,000 people, neighbors, stallholders, patients, a former professor of yours who died in July, the woman who used to sell chestnuts outside the gate to the Pantheon, the baker from your very first house call, both of his surviving children, and his wife who held out until October. The city has a specific texture now that it didn't have before. Streets that were loud are quieter. Markets that were crowded have gaps. Not empty but thinner with spaces. Where people used to be. The particular silence of a city that is still functioning but has had a portion of its volume removed. You are being paid. Regularly, consistently by municipal warrant. It is good money. More than you made in private practice even before the epidemic began. You are aware of the grotesque accounting here that your income has improved in direct proportion to the city's suffering, that you are, by the logic of the market, doing very well, and you are not sure what to do with this awareness, so you put it in the same part of your mind where you've put the pigeons and the Theriac and the 31 deaths in the first fortnight. That part of your mind is getting crowded. What you have learned in a year, to breathe through the beak without noticing the flowers anymore, to sleep with the smell of the day still on you because the smell has become ambient, to read a patient in 30 seconds, the color around the eyes, the rhythm of the breathing, which swellings are fresh and which have been developing for days, and form a prognosis with the flat accuracy of someone who has stopped hoping. The prognosis will be wrong. You have also learned which families will follow your instructions and which will not. The ones who won't burn the bedding. The ones who will sneak back into the quarantined house to retrieve something they forgot. The ones who will drink water from the same well as the house 3 doors down, the one you flagged as infected 6 weeks ago. You have learned to deliver your instructions to these people with the calm certainty of someone who knows exactly what's going to happen and has run out of additional ways to prevent it. You are a very good plague doctor now. This is not a compliment exactly, but it is what you've become. 18 months in the accusation. The mob finds you on a Wednesday morning in November. Not a dramatic mob. Not torches and pitchforks. This is Rome, not a story. It's 11 men, 3 women, and a boy who might be 14, gathered outside the door of a tenement in the Rione Monte quarter where you've been making calls since 7 in the morning. They are not there about the patients. They are there about you. The accusation, which has been circulating the quarter for 2 weeks in the specific way rumors circulate in a city under siege, exponentially, with editorial embellishment. At each transmission, is that plague doctors are spreading the disease deliberately, that you receive payment from the city for each new case, and therefore profit from keeping the epidemic running, that the waxed leather robe contains infected material. You carry from house to house as a vector. Some of this is logical in the way that fear produces a dark version of logic. You do handle infected material. You do move between houses. The city does pay you per case. Confirmed. None of it is intentional. All of it looks bad from the outside. The man at the front of the group, a tanner, you know him from the quarter, lost 2 children in September, is holding a length of rope. Not threateningly. Not yet. In the way someone carries something they brought because they thought they might need it. You have your cane. You have your notebook. You have the municipal papers in your bag. that establish your legal authority to be in this quarter at this time for this purpose. You show the papers. You speak calmly. You explain what you do and why. You explain the miasma theory in terms that don't require a medical degree, which is easy because it doesn't require reality to be true either, just internal consistency. You tell them that the costume protects them as much as it protects you, that you contain the pestilential air in the beak rather than releasing it into the street. This is not entirely accurate, but it is not entirely wrong either, and it is the version of events that is most useful right now. The tanner looks at you for a long moment. His grief is sitting right behind his eyes. You can see it. You have seen it in a lot of faces this year. It is the particular grief of a man who has watched something catastrophic happen and cannot locate a cause proportionate to the damage, and is, therefore, filling the gap with the nearest available target. You understand this. You are not unsympathetic. You are also very aware of the rope. Eventually, not because you've convinced him exactly, but because the papers are official, and official papers in Rome carry a specific gravity even in extremis. He takes a step back. The group disperses in the slow, reluctant way of people who came prepared for something and are leaving without it. You go back inside the tenement. You finish the house call. You make 2 more. That evening at the tavern you tell the others. The surgeon nods. It happened to him. In August, a smaller confrontation, same accusation. The apothecary was chased from his delivery cart in October. One of the northern physicians was detained by a neighborhood guard for 6 hours before his papers were verified. You are all, in the city's imagination, as dangerous as the disease itself. Useful, but unclean. Necessary but unwanted. The thing the city hired because someone had to do it and is now resented for doing it. Another successful day at the office. After what remains? The Roman plague of 1656 ends, as plagues do, not with a dramatic moment but with a gradual trailing off. Fewer new cases, then fewer deaths, then a week with no new confirmed houses, then 2 weeks. Then the municipal office sends a notice that contracted plague physicians may stand down. You receive this notice on a Tuesday morning. You read it twice. You set it on your table next to your notebook and your cane and the leather mask which you have hung on a hook by the door and which you are not yet sure what to do with. The epidemic has lasted 19 months. In that time you have visited approximately 840 houses, confirmed roughly 1,100 cases, attended 60 autopsies, and watched somewhere in the region of 700 people proceed from symptom to burial at a pace that ranged from 4 days to 3 weeks. You have the notebook. The numbers are in there. You stopped counting with your gut somewhere around month 4 because your gut ran out of space and the notebook doesn't. You go to your sister's house and knock on the front door. She opens it. She looks at you for a moment, not at the robe which you're not wearing, not at the beak which is on the hook at home, just at your face which you realize she hasn't seen up close in the better part of 2 years. Then she steps forward and embraces you. Neither of you speaks for a moment. You smell like lavender and camphor and leather and something beneath all of it that the bath last night didn't quite reach. She doesn't say anything about it. You restart your private practice in January. The patients come back slowly, partly because half the city is genuinely gone, partly because the other half knows where you spent the last 19 months and is processing this information at different speeds. Some patients won't see you at all. Some specifically request you on the grounds that you've seen the worst of it and are still here. You get used to both. Your notebook sits on the shelf above your desk. You've started a second one, not the recording kind, the thinking kind. Observations, questions the treatments keep failing to answer, patterns in who survived and who didn't that the miasma theory doesn't explain and that you don't yet have a framework to explain either. You don't know that the framework is 200 years away. You don't know that germ theory will eventually replace miasma and that the beak full of camphor will become a symbol of everything medicine got wrong before it got things right. You don't know that the costume, the crystal lenses, the 18-inch beak with the flowers in the tip will be reproduced in carnival masks and history books and the nightmares of future generations who find it funny at a distance they can afford because the disease is gone. What you know is what you've written down. 840 houses, 1,100 cases, 60 autopsies, a notebook full of patterns that don't fit the theory. You open the second notebook. You pick up your pen. The question you can't stop asking is the one that kept you going through every useless treatment and every pigeon and every theriac dosage and every clear morning when you put the robe back on anyway. Why do some people survive? You don't have the answer, but you have the question, and you have the data, and you have, against the reasonable expectations of 19 months inside the plague houses of Rome, your life. You were never just a plague doctor in a ridiculous beak. You were a witness, the only trained observer standing inside the catastrophe, taking notes, asking why, when every other instinct in the city was to close the shutters and pray and wait for it to end. The beak hangs on the hook. The notebook sits open on the desk. You write the date at the top of the page. You begin. So you walked through Rome's worst year and came out the other side with a notebook and a question. Click the card now or miss the full story of your life as a gravedigger where the plague doctor leaves and the body count stays and someone has to put the city back in the ground one name at a time.